Summer, he's a therapist in training. He's a real G who's talking about dating. Dating with the multi. Don't be hating when he reveals the intricacies of modern mating.
Dating with the multi. It's dating with the multi.
100 days of summer. This has been years in the making.
All right, theme number 2. Don't assume mutual interest until it's crystal clear, especially with exes. So we see it in the beginning. You know, I'm always a person that will play coy when it comes to people being into me, right? You know, he plays it cool when he's, you know, at the karaoke bar and was like, oh, you know, they're flirting with each other. Oh, do you want to be my friend? I think you're interesting, blah, 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 right? That's fine. You know, my whole thing is, especially because they work together, you know, it's better to wait until things are crystal clear to approach. You know, both of them saying, you know, whether it's communicating they're into each other, you know, obviously Summer makes a move and kisses him. It's pretty crystal clear. But the bigger point is that you shouldn't make any assumptions about feelings with exes. You know, and Tom and his hopeless romanticness jumps to so many conclusions. You know, assumes the most and just thinks that every move from Summer is, you know, at least in certain time periods, indicative of, hey, I want to be back. I want to be back together. And he gets hurt. And I'm not trying to say that some of the stuff that she did wasn't that way, but Tom needed to be more careful with his emotions. He needed to be more guarded, and he wasn't. You know, so the reason why I say don't assume any mutual interest is because there wasn't, at least from her, even if it might have appeared that way. And we'll get to that in section number 3. But you know, they dance. You know, she comes over to ask him for coffee, and he thinks, "Oh, wow, this might be something." They then have good conversations while having coffee. They then have a good time at the wedding. They dance at the wedding. Again, I'll get to that in the section 3. I guess what I'm trying to say is this: like, if you want to call the wedding scene debatably reckless by Summer, you can. If you want to say it's debatable, you want to say that, I think this is a gray area, I don't think she did anything wrong, sure, you can say that. There's plausible deniability here, right? There's plausible deniability that what she did was okay, and she's within her right to dance with someone. She didn't make, and this is the main point, Summer did not make any overt physical or emotional moves on Tom. There was no overt physical affection. There was no overt emotional intimacy. So she didn't say, you know, hey, I want to be with you, or like, hey, I miss you, or hey, like, I love you, or blah, 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 whatever. She didn't say that. She dances with him. She puts her head on his shoulder, but she doesn't kiss him. We know she's bold. She's kissed him at work. So what's to say she can't kiss him on the train? What's to say she can't kiss him at a wedding? Come on now. And they've already been together. So she doesn't really make any overt moves. She doesn't. Now, again, we'll get to this in the third one. She does make some questionable moves. She does make some things that are questionable, sus, you know, whatever you want to say. But, you know, she does do some good things in this way. You know, she says, you know, on the email after they broke up, like, hey, I hope this means you're ready to be friends. That was her implementing a boundary right there. That was a great move by her to say, hey, I'm down to remain in contact, but this has to only be friends. Like, we has to only be platonic. And obviously he gets upset because he likes her. And so Yeah, so I think Tom, what I'm trying to say is that Tom jumps to these conclusions. Tom gets delusional because he sees her and they, kind of rekindle that chemistry. And so that's the issue with people who have chemistry is that it's infectious, it's addicting, and so when you spend time together, it feels amazing, and you think, oh my gosh, like this means we have to get back together because it felt so good, and it doesn't always mean that. And so anyway, so that was the issue is that Tom felt the chemistry from her. She was, dancing with him, showing him attention, blah blah blah, and he assumed that she was down, and that just wasn't right. So yeah, I think Summer did a good thing with the email. She doesn't get back together with him in that moment. She doesn't invite him to her party, but she makes sure to like be boundary specific there. Like puts the hand on the shoulder instead of giving him a hug. Shows him her friends and like introduces them, and she hangs out with her boyfriend all night because that's who she's getting engaged to, and she doesn't really give him any signs, and that's good. And so that's the whole thing. You have the wedding, and then you have the party, and it's just such a juxtaposition because we see the expectations and the reality, right? But it says that Tom, he didn't do the second thing. He assumed there was interest, and because of that wrong assumption, he gets hurt, and he gets hurt bad. He spirals. He goes into depression. He's drinking, and goes on a I don't call it a bender, but he binges, eats food and drinks, and he ends up quitting his job because he's just at such rock bottom. So anyway, that's why we don't assume mutual interest. You always got to be careful when it comes to exes, because you might assume one thing means one thing, but until it's crystal clear, you don't have anything. So you got to be careful. You got to be a little bit, I don't want to say guarded, but you got to just be careful. You got to be vigilant. You can't assume anything. Yeah, it's wrong until it's proven right, is what I'm trying to say. So. Yeah, Tom really could have saved himself a lot of heartbreak in this way, and he didn't. He assumed, and he got burned. So that's what happens. So you got to be careful. Basically, moral of the story. That's theme number 2. All right, theme number 3. We'll talk more about the party here. But don't be reckless with other people's feelings. That's a big theme of this movie, in my opinion. You see, there's a lot of people that will villainize Summer. There's a lot of people that will villainize Tom. I think they both have gripes in my book. They both messed up in this movie on multiple occasions. So I think Summer was very clear, hey, I want something casual. Is that okay? Tom says yes. Now, I think Summer, she was acting in good faith. Tom was down, and I don't blame her for any of that. But I think where it changed was day 118. Tom asks, hey, what are we doing here with us? In that moment, she had an opportunity to really clarify the boundaries. And this, so you could assume, oh, well, she already said what she wanted. But, it's just like with, so she doesn't have any responsibilities right now. Just like in therapy, there's a process called informed consent where, you tell your client, like, this is what you should expect in therapy, etc. It's an ongoing process. It's a constant conversation. You mend things, you change things, you figure out, what your client needs, etc. Relationships are an ongoing conversation, 100%. So just because you said a couple months ago, yeah, I'm okay with casual, doesn't mean it's going to continue to be that. And it will evolve. Relationships aren't static. They evolve. They change over time. That's how things work. And so when he brings up, hey, what are we doing here? And she blows him off. She totally blows him off and what's the word? Just kind of acts disingenuous. She just dismisses. Oh, I'm sorry, that's the word I wanted. She dismisses him in the conversation. He's coming at it and he's like being serious, like, hey, I'm kind of worried about what's going on here. And she just goes, we're just having fun. Isn't that okay? We're just having fun. Hee hee. There's nothing wrong with having fun. You're allowed to have fun. But you need both people to do that. The reason the theme number 3 is to not be emotionally reckless is because she's being emotionally reckless. Yes, you could say Tom's an adult. Yes, you could say Tom needs to look out for himself. He needs to be the one to be a big boy, and if he doesn't like something, he doesn't have to be in it. Yes, these are all true, but he asked her point blank, what are we doing? And she just totally gaslights or, skirts the question. Oh, we're just having fun, whatever. Yeah, he could have left. He should have left. But she has a duty as a good person to be clear and to get his consent in what they're doing. Like, hey, I actually, I like this whole thing we're doing where it's casual, where we don't have any expectations in the future, where we see each other, we hook up, we spend time together, but we're not in a relationship, we're not exclusive. Is that still okay with you? That is emotionally responsible. That's looking out for someone else's feelings. Yes, I think that we need to look out for our own feelings and advocate for ourselves and be our own ally, but we also have a duty to each other. Let's not be so selfish in this life where I'm just like, well, I told you what I want, so if you don't want that, that's on you. No, fuck that. She should have checked with him. Hey, is this still okay with you? That's the emotional mature thing to do, is to check with your person. Like, hey, is this still okay with you? Do you still want this casual thing? I want to make sure you're comfortable with the terms of engagement. That is acting in good faith. Because when both people are on the same page, consenting to the type of relationship you're having, it's ethical and good, and people will enjoy themselves. But instead, she just skirts it and is like, oh, well, we're doing whatever. And that's it. And Tom should have pressed her 100%, but, what can he do if she doesn't want to talk? So, multiple errors made on this day for sure. But, I don't know. I think that she wasn't very, cognizant of his feelings. I don't think she gave him the time of day in this conversation, and she should have. And I don't think it was very respectful of his feelings. If she had come to him and was like, hey, what are we doing? He's like, oh, well, we're just kind of messing around. Who cares? She would have every right to be offended too. People deserve answers. People deserve clarity. I don't think that even if you don't have any labels or you're casual or future expectations, you can still be clear about that. That still is something that you can communicate. You don't need to label everything down to a T. Oh, we must spend 52 minutes together and we can only have 4 kisses every week, and you cannot say 3 cute little texts to me every month. It doesn't need to be so strict, but both people should have an understanding and have kind of a mutual agreement of okay, this is what we're doing. All right, this makes sense to me. I agree. And that just didn't happen. And so I think that Summer was reckless with Tom's feelings at this juncture. Then, to talk about the wedding. This one I actually have a lot of issue with, and not many people bring this up, at least as far as I've seen in the minimal 500 days of summer content. The wedding is really where I think she fucks up. and she is very much in the wrong, and I really want to nail that home. So they go to Millie's wedding. She comes up to him, says hello, right? That's fine, whatever. She invites him to coffee. Sure. So that's the question is, what is your definition of ex relations? What do you feel like is ethical, moral, whatever? That's up to every other person. I will speak from my own experience, my own opinions. If I saw an ex who I could tell was very into me, maybe even loved me, and we maybe shared love, whatever you want to say, on the train, would I avoid them? Probably. Just to be honest, probably. I wouldn't want to talk to them. Why? But let's say even if I did, I'd say, hey, how are you? Good? Okay, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Whatever. I would not have invited this person to coffee. I wouldn't have done that. But she does. Did Tom have to accept coffee? He didn't. But, he, again, was delusional. So then they have coffee. Is that necessarily messed? Not necessarily. They then go to the wedding. So again, I'm acting right as if Summer is single, which that, for as far as Tom knows, is true. So they have a great conversation on the car. Okay, all right. Now it's a little, I'm like, okay, something's there. Or maybe at like a 2 out of 10. Maybe at like a 3 out of 10. They go to the wedding. They're making jokes to each other. She brings up something from the relationship, the penis game. It's like, okay. She's bringing up relationship stuff. She's trying to revert back to relationship stuff. They then dance with each other. They talk about the relationship, bring up old memories, reminisce. She catches the bouquet. They get drunk, kind of, or they're drinking. And she invites him to the party. I'm recounting everything that happened, but she invites him to their garden party or their rooftop party, and then on the train ride home, she puts her head on his shoulder. That, to me, if I was a man in this position, that's like a 7 or an 8. I don't blame Tom for being confused by what just happened. I see my ex, who I was in love with. She invites me to coffee. She then spends the whole wedding with me, asks me to dance. We dance. Catches the bouquet. Whatever. But then talks to me, jokes with me the whole night, asks me to her party. Like I mentioned, none of these are insanely overt. But that's the issue with dating, is that there's so much covert things, so many unspoken things that, subtle things that men are supposed to catch up on, which we don't. But these are problematic. These behaviors are all problematic. For if you want to say her as a single person when she did this, is she allowed? Sure. You could say that. You could say there's plausible deniability. Oh, well, I was just caught up in the moment. It was the wedding, like whatever. The worst of it is the head on the shoulder. Like you're putting your head on your ex's shoulder and like not basically cuddling him on the train. Like you're touching him. You're having physical touch, and that it's a pretty intimate thing. Yeah, they're not making out or whatever, but that's the next closest thing. So she's breaking these physical boundaries that I wouldn't even do with a friend. That's not platonic right there. You can't claim that putting your head, I don't know. You tell me. But, dancing, fine. Point is, that there was some flirting there. There was some undeniable flirting that happened that night. They're laughing, kind of being flirty with each other, whatever, right? And then they have the sweet moment on the train. I don't know. To me, I just think, I just think that it's very borderline reckless. So there's that, right? Then you add in the fact that she was with another guy. She, whether if she put a label on it or not, had a boyfriend. She had this man in her life who proposes to her within the week. So she spent a wedding, didn't invite this boyfriend, right? Didn't bring the boyfriend to a wedding. That's a little weird. You don't bring a boyfriend to the wedding when you're a week away from getting engaged. That's strange. Maybe she signed Millie's card, I can't bring a +1. Okay, whatever. But she went to this wedding. She spent the whole day with her ex. And as far as we know, didn't mention the current boyfriend to her ex-boyfriend, and then invites him to I don't keep saying garden, to a rooftop party at your place the next week. I'm sorry, but that is reckless. That's fucked up. How can you do that? How can, like if I was this boyfriend of hers, I'd be pissed. I'd be pissed. How can you spending the whole wedding with you dance with your ex-boyfriend? You put your head on the shoulder of your ex-boyfriend? And then I'm going to propose to you the next week? Hell no. And you invited him to our party? Are you serious right now? I'm sorry. I don't know how you can watch this scene. And again, a lot of this I recognize is from Tom's point of view. But if we're assuming this is fact, how can you think that Summer is without flaw? How can you think that Summer is without blame? Whether you want to say it's against Tom, Tom probably needs to get over himself, stop being delusional. But that is so bad if, like when she did that to her boyfriend. I don't know. I just think that she was careless with her boyfriend's feelings and with Tom's feelings. I don't know. This is all about you. Maybe you're a different person where you can dance with whoever you want, even if you have a boyfriend. You can put your head on whoever's shoulder, even if you have a boyfriend. I don't know. To me, I think these are boundaries that should be had. You shouldn't dance with someone that isn't your partner, and shouldn't flirt with someone who isn't your partner, or put your head on someone's shoulder that's not your partner. That to me just seems kind of a boundary, an ethical line for me. So tell me if you're different, but I think she was messed up in this way. Inviting your ex to a party when your boyfriend's going to be there, and you're showing off you're being engaged, that's brutal, dude. I know Tom's an adult, but how can you be so emotionally reckless to not take his feelings into account? How were you just so willfully ignorant? I'm sorry, I don't mean to go off on this, but I just think that was really discourteous of her to do. I have an ex that I dated for 8 months that, was sounds like pretty passionate and emotional and whatever. I'm not bringing his ass to a party after I just got engaged. What is wrong with you? I'm sorry, I think this brings up the whole ex debate, right? But to me, I just think that's just such a line. It's just such a line that should never be crossed. Bringing your ex to a party after you're engaged? What? How do you expect Tom to feel? And that's the whole thing. I don't know. You go out for 8 months, I would assume she probably knows who Tom is. Tom has showed himself that he's in love with you. Tom has showed that he's someone that thought you were in a relationship. So you should have had the wherewithal. You should have had the foresight to see, I don't think Tom can really handle this. I probably shouldn't invite him. That'd probably be kind of a dick move. Especially since I didn't tell him about this boyfriend at the wedding. You spent an entire day with him Your boyfriend doesn't come up. Oh, by the way, I just started seeing this new person. How do you not mention that? How do you not mention, yeah, I'm with this guy, and I think he might be the one, because in less than a week's time, I'm going to say yes to marrying him. You can't claim that, oh, yeah, I just slipped my mind. That's the most important person in your life. And you didn't tell your ex about it? What did you think was going to happen? I mean, come on. She wasn't acting in good faith. That's what I'm trying to say. You know, obviously Tom, you know, maybe Tom should have asked, hey, are you seeing anybody right now or whatever? Tom shouldn't have assumed that she was into him, but she has a duty, you know, as a person to look out for people's feelings and be self-aware, to be like, ooh, actually my fiance is going to be there. Probably shouldn't have my ex there. That's pretty uncomfortable. Societally, that's a pretty uncomfortable thing. So, and especially knowing Tom, yeah, probably wouldn't be a good idea. Bam, that's it. You don't invite him. You say, sorry, you can't come, whatever. And you would have saved him so much heartbreak. But you didn't. So that happens, right? That's the party. She gets married. She then sees him on the park bench. She had some nuts to talk to him. I'll give her that. I think she does seem, excuse me, genuine in asking him how he's doing. You know, one of the final scenes in the movie. And that's good. That's fine. That's good and dandy. You know, comes over to him and asks him, and he says, I will be. And then he says, oh, well, I should be saying congratulations. You know, you're married. And she's like, yeah, it's kind of crazy. Like, it just happened. And Tom's like, yeah, it was crazy. Like, you know, you should have told me. And she, like, kind of laughs, like, oh, yeah, I probably should have. And then he's like, no, you should have. Like, we were dancing and we were at the wedding, and she's like, yeah, well, he hadn't asked me. And it's like, it doesn't fucking matter. And he said, yeah, well, you were still in your life. And she goes, yeah. And then he said, well, so why did you dance with me? And she goes, because I wanted to. And he just, you know, absolutely, like, goes for the jug and says, you just do what you want, don't you? Because he's calling out her bullshit, which is true. You just do what you want. And it's like, you were reckless, is what he's saying. You were reckless with my feelings. You didn't take into account how this decision would make me feel. And you see her that she got. You look at her face and she's like, damn, that hurt. Like, you were right. And, you know, she still has kind of I don't know how she does this, but he's like, you know, you don't want to be anyone's girlfriend, and the next day you want to be someone's wife. And she goes, surprise me too. It's like, how can you be so flippant, you know? And then, you know, and then she hits him in the jug and says, you know, he's like, how, you know, how does it make sense? He's like, well, she's like, well, I woke up one day and I knew. And then he's like, knew what? What I didn't know with you. And, oh, man, she goes right in the heart, man. That's just tough. And then you see him have to look away because he wants to cry. And he's just like, everything's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, it's not. It's not actually, because I fell in love and I, you know, met this guy and he was amazing. Now he's my husband. And so then she kind of reassures him that, like, hey, you were right. Like, you should, you know, like, love exists, basically. Which he's like, oh, thanks for the little feather in my hat. So that, I'll get to anyway, she finishes the bench scene saying, I'm glad you're doing well. It's good to see you. And holds his hand. And you see, and squeezes it. And you see him just like, he's like, no, come on now. Like, and she knows this is hard. And Tom stands up and says, I really hope you're happy. And she says, she doesn't say anything. She smiles and then leaves. Multiple things I have to say about this. Obviously, they both got each other. They both absolutely delivered haymakers to each other. Do they find closure? I guess you could say so. It doesn't really feel like it. Tom says, I really hope you're happy. They get closure. It's like, okay, thank you for that. But, yeah, I don't know. I think that, if it helped Tom, then, good for him. I would have been pissed. If she said, well, I just wanted to do that. It's like, wow, you really don't give a shit about me. You don't give a shit about my emotions. You didn't care. She didn't care. She's like, I did it because I wanted to. That is the definition of being selfish. Like, he just told her, hey, what you did, wasn't okay. It actually really upset me. And she's like, okay, well, who cares? I wanted to do it, so. She doesn't apologize. That's the whole thing. Yes, Tom has control over his emotions. But my whole thing, this is the debate. I still think she should have apologized. Whether or not, she's so messed up, just to say, hey, I'm sorry how this could have been misinterpreted this way. I'm sorry how I might have led you on. I'm sorry that you feel like I led you on. Or, something like that. Where you're acknowledging, hey, I should have told you about this guy. That was messed up of me. I didn't mean to lead you on. I'm sorry if you got that impression or whatever. I should have been a little bit more cognizant of your emotions when I did that. That would have fixed everything, but she didn't. And then he still says, oh, I hope you're happy. I don't know if he really believes that, but, he portrays it in the movie like he does. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think she doesn't admit to her wrongdoing, and then holds his hand too. She does, and then commits another act of physical intimacy. Let me hold your hand. What? And I know it wasn't that big. It wasn't he made it. But it's just little things like that. If my ex, who I had all this history with, saw me in public at a park bench serendipitously, came up to me and held my hand in a sweet way and looks like she's about to cry and was like, I need to go, I'd still be into her. You know what I mean? I'd be ruminating on that for months. She held my hand, bro. What do you think that means? And I know that different people ascribe different meanings to different actions, and a handhold might be just a handhold, whatever. But I don't know. You just breaking all. You just keep crossing the line over and over. Keep your hands to yourself, bruh. You are married. Keep your hands to yourself. Don't touch your ex. Why is this so difficult for people to understand? Anyway, so, yeah. I do want to give, and I do want to give some credit, I guess, that she still maintains, the distance, right? She doesn't go back with him. She doesn't overtly say him into you or give him any hope in this way. She still goes about her life I'm going to be with this guy. She doesn't break off the engagement or anything like that. She doesn't do anything overt. So, yay, congrats, bro. You didn't do anything overt to lead Tom on. But it's these little moments, these little things that I think matter. Another thing I also want to bring up, because I'll commend Summer for this later, but in this moment I think it was messed up. At the party, she brings up the fact that Tom isn't chasing his dream. And so you get this, which is so funny, where this girl's like, oh, what do you do? And Tom's like, oh, well, I write greeting cards. Also, I love this scene. The city in the background, incredible. oh, I write green cards. And she's like, oh, by the way, he could be a really great architect. And I know that she's trying to give him a compliment. But this is really one of the first times she's seen him in over 100 days. To me, if I was dating somebody and they had this like thing about like, oh, I want to pursue this dream, but I'm just not secure enough to do it or whatever it is, I wouldn't bring that up in front of a bunch of people. I don't know. I didn't think that was like a great move. Like, oh, what do you do? Oh, well, actually, Tom really could have been something if he applied himself. You know, like, and I'm sure she didn't really mean it like that, but that's how it kind of comes off. Because multiple times in the movie, she like tries to inspire him to be better, and that's cool. And like, I think that's like a very personal thing, but I don't know. She kind of like embarrasses him in front of these other people. Like, I think that's an embarrassing thing she did. Like, you know, and I think she might have thought that it was you know, like a compliment. Like, oh yeah, Tom's really, like, but think of the word choice she uses, right? Tom could be a really great architect if he wanted to. If he wanted to. Not, oh, Tom's a really great architect. You know, in the context, like, she should have complimented his writing ability. Oh yeah, Tom made this awesome card. That's where we met. You know, he made this really top-selling card the other day. That would have been a nice thing to say. Or just shut the fuck up. Like, don't say anything. But instead, she, like, embarrasses him and says, oh, well, you know, he actually could have done something else with his life, but he didn't. And so her friend goes, oh, well, that's interesting. You know, like, why? And he makes the hilarious joke of, like, why build something disposable like a building when you can make something that lasts forever like a greeting card? Which, you know, hilarious because it's the opposite. But you see Summer make a face like, this is why I broke up with you. That's the face she makes. And you see Tom notice it, and he's like, yeah, I know. And it's embarrassing for him, right? So, yeah, I think that was a bad move by her. Like, you bring your ex to this event where your boyfriend's going to be there. You know you got engaged. And which also, I mean, I'm surprised that Tom didn't notice the engagement ring in their conversations. Yeah, it's just the whole thing was bad form by her. And, you know, if I was Tom in that moment, I would have been mad because, like, she brings it up multiple times, and I'll get to this later. I think it was a good thing that she does, but when she does it, it feels almost like you're tearing me down. Like anyone who's been in a relationship knows that there's these little sticking points. A relationship that's ended, where you remember, like, this was a problem throughout, and it kept showing itself throughout. Like, you know, date someone and religion was a thing. You know, it's these themes, right? It keeps coming up. Like, oh, well, you know, I like things that your partner had a problem with. And so that's her. I feel like that's one of them for her. Was he's not high achieving. He's not chasing his dreams. And I don't like that. So I'm going to bring it up all the time. You know, but she does inspire him to be better. And I do like that. But when she does it in this way, oh, if he wanted to be, it just comes off poorly. Like, why would you bring that up to strangers? Like, Tom doesn't chase his dream. That's what she's saying. And it's, I don't know, I felt that was insensitive to Tom. So anyway, sorry to go off on such a long tangent, but this is, you know, something I feel very passionate about. Is number 3, don't be reckless with other people's feelings. You know, be courteous, take their feelings into account. So
Keith the Molder, he's a therapist in training. He's a real G who's talking about dating. Dating with the moldy, don't be hating when he reveals the intricacies of modern life. Dating with the moldy, dating with the moldy. It's the moldy on dating. 500 days of summer, this has been years in the making.